Good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's still morning out in LA area. My guest today is Stephan Franck, returning, um, fresh off of your What If season. Was it three, two,
Yeah,
three?
yeah.
Yeah, you directed. It looked like
I think I did
uh,
five in the
yeah,
I
roughly
directed.
half the season.
It's a little bit more because there's 8 episodes in the season, so I did five, uh,
Okay.
and I did the first one of the second season too.
So I'm a comics geek, so we're gonna get into the comic stuff in a minute. But I did watch, or at least kind of watch, most of the What If. I have trouble just watching. I have a tendency to watch and read comics at the same time. But I did come up with questions.
Yeah,
The first of which, and I think we dug into this a little bit last time, but it was more buried in the podcast. Um, what does director mean for an animated feature?
it's the same thing as it means for a live action one. It's literally the same thing. The only difference is that uh, um,
Well, you're
you're
not yelling action and cut,
no.
which I
Um,
think is what most people think of live action
well,
directors. I mean, there's
you do
huge
have,
more things they do, but what people think is
right.
the guy that goes action, cut.
Well, okay, so directing to is like you're through like any movie, any show, there's dozens, if not hundreds of people working on it, and no and none of these people are there from the very beginning to the very end. So people come in, so it's like a party that people come in and out, and you're the host, and you have to make sure that this remains the same party from beginning to end.
Cohesive. Okay.
So it is constantly talking to people to create this virtual world around them where people are constantly situated and everybody's pulling in the same direction and stuff like that, and also giving a sense uh, um, to people, a sense of safety, a sense of trust, so they feel like they can take chances and try to do things, and you have their back. You're not gonna lead them into like a stupid situation that, or like that they're, or a wrong choice or something like that. So this is more like the philosophical answer, but at the core, that's what it is. It's like you come in on a project, whether it's a project you initiated from the start or it's a project that the studio institutionally has decided, okay, we're doing this and we think it's going to be about this, and then you take it on. And, creatively, the first thing for me, my way into anything like that is I'm always like, okay, we're playing with these toys. Okay, cool. Why why do we care? You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
what is the human story at the end of this that that means something to me? And they say like it's a David Mamet quote that I know he's become kind of an odd character, but
Right.
it's David Mamet, and he said in one of his books that the movies are like the merging of two timeless traditions, the theater and the circus.
Okay.
So
I like it.
my way in is always like, all right, what is the circus in here that is mind blowing, and then we're gonna do things we've never seen before or not like that, and that's exciting. And what's the theater? What's the human story? If this was just two or three people talking in the black box theater, would I care about what they're saying and what, you know what I mean? And so it's just all. So once you find your way into the story that way, through, for me at least, through these two angles, um you know um then that becomes that, like, everything springs from there, like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm doing here, and then it becomes this process of so certain things I'm more, you'll be more hands-on than others. Like, for instance, every director comes from, I mean, very few people just come out of the chute as a director. Most
Right.
like people have learned your trades through, you're a different, like for me, I started as an animator and then as storyboard and then writing script and directing, you know what I mean? So it's just like,
Right.
so storyboarding, for instance, is one of my things that I do, myself with this hand, right? So if I'm directing something, I'm gonna want to storyboard a lot on it because that's my story language. That's the most that's the one where there's no where I don't need to talk to anyone. I can just do exactly
Right.
what I'm thinking, right? So for me, when I'm directing, I storyboard a lot. It could be completely different from somebody else. There's excellent directors who come from a writing background and they don't do a single drawing. So to them, it's more about the language and they'll communicate their
Yeah.
vision through language.
I feel like
So
I was reading something recently about somebody who was Steven Spielberg's preferred storyboard artist because he needs both. He comes from the writing background, but he needs
yeah,
the visuals. So when he found out that he had like a really good rapport with this guy, it's like, okay, you need to, I'm going to tell you what needs to go there.
that's right. Well, like there's
And that, well, it
directing.
made me think. So every Steven Spielberg movie first has a comic book.
Yes, that's right. Storyboard. Okay, so now I'm gonna have a little tangent and just because people don't know this, like the secret weapon in the industry, whether it's all the big movies or whether it's feature animation or animation of any kind, is story artists. And that's a job that people don't necessarily understand, especially in feature animation. When you see, like you watch a Disney movie or whatever animated movie, and you see, story or story artist, what that means, it's a position that is the mix between you're like a storyboard person, you're gonna be drawing,
Right.
but you're also a staff writer,
Right.
meaning that you're also contributing. It could be on any scale of the story. It could be participating in the shaping the overall
But
story,
it's
all
it's
down to
what Kirby
detail.
fought for at Marvel all those years back, rather than being called the penciler, he was the co-plotter.
I'm glad you said that because that's very, very similar to what they used to call the Marvel method.
Hmm.
Where like Stanley would say, it's about this, and this kind of happens, and this
Right.
kind of happens. And Kirby would take it and kind of tell that whole story visually. And then I
Hmm.
would go back to Stan to just add some dialogue flourishes and
Right.
bridge some, things that maybe needed bridging or whatever, you know what I mean? And so,
Right.
uh, um, the concept of writing is in the quote unquote, I'm going to say the professional arts, from music to writing doesn't necessarily mean typing.
Right.
Writing means creating story, and
Right.
um, so that's what story artists do, the some of the biggest movie sequences, like for instance in Star Wars or giant, things that didn't start out on the page. They started with just an illustration of, for instance, those giant like two-legged thing, in Empire Strikes
Right.
Back. That started from one painting. I saw the
Yeah.
painting, you know.
Oh,
Uh,
I've seen that painting. It's
yeah,
amazing.
I mean, I saw the
What it
painting.
was McQuarrie, Christopher McQuarrie did a
Yeah,
lot of the
so
design art for Lucas during Star Wars. I feel like that's the right name.
yeah, exactly. And so, but so from visual ideas, because again, so that speaks to the circus, that doesn't speak to the theater, but you need both in the movie, and there's as much circus-based story in the movie as there is theater-based story, if that makes sense.
Think so. Well, no, maybe that's the wrong one. Maybe that's the wrong McQuarrie, because if he was born in 68, he wasn't
Yes,
working on Star Wars.
if he was born in what year?
1968. There are
Yeah,
two Hollywood McQuarries, and I get them.
right.
It's Ralph McQuarrie. Ralph McQuarrie is the
There you
one
go.
that did
There you
all
go.
of the. So anybody who's listening before, not Christopher, he did other stuff,
He did
working with
other
a
stuff.
director, or at least some of his stuff was working with a director that we don't like to talk about a lot anymore. So Ralph McQuarrie is the guy to look up. He has a Wikipedia entry.
There you go. I should know this, but I guess I'm
Yeah,
completely
I
wrong.
mean,
But
when you're a nerd and you start to know lots of things, they blend
yeah.
sometimes.
So anyway,
Sorry, I didn't
so
mean to blow your train of thought.
no, not at all. No, so anyway, so this is just yeah, it's really interesting for people to know that what story artists are in animation is a very, I mean, I'm realizing that a lot of the job descriptions and the positions, the things people do in animation are very mysterious to people. It's
Hmm.
true because so story artist is that. And then going back to the directing,
I mean, you mean Walt Disney didn't draw every cell?
no. Yes, I mean people still think that.
Well, how long did it take for people to know who Karl Barks was?
Yes, he was
Because
like,
he was supposed to have drawn every comic too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was this the mysterious.
I have to slip in Karl Barks anytime I can.
I
I love Karl
love,
Barks.
as you can see, I don't know if you saw, I did this during COVID. I did this one issue kind of crazy little comic called Romance in the Age of the Space God. Oh shit, you have it. There you go. So you understand my love for Carl.
We were gonna get to this.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. Okay.
I
So, but
told you I
this
was
is
making an
my
order from your site as soon as we booked our time.
oh, that's awesome. So yeah,
Um,
when you mentioned call barks, I was like, oh, you're speaking my language there. Yeah.
Karl Barks. I love Karl Barks. Um, another like just technical question, because again, we focus on comics, but I know a ton of people that is into comics are into comics, but also huge into animation, huge into anime, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But as I was watching the What If, I found myself thinking in a more technical way just because I do sometimes. It's my autistic brain going, okay, how does this work? And I'm guessing that it's not you give somebody, okay, I need you to make these 5 seconds worth of film. It feels more like you'd have somebody that would be the equivalent of a set designer. Okay, draw the background or the 3D model that we're working in, and somebody else that would be doing the characters. So
Yeah. So
I
like
don't even know quite the right questions to ask. So break
no,
down
I totally understand.
how to art duties.
So it works the exact same way as a live action movie, meaning that there you have departments, right? So and every department has a head of department. For instance, you have the production designer who supervises a whole team of art directors and artists, whose job is to design the to design everything that you see on screen. Like for instance, let's say like first episode of second season, right? Nebula, right? We want to give her a car, right? So I'm gonna have a meeting with the art department and say, hey, so for this, because at that point we're all in the same headspace that we're trying to do something that's between that's like a 70s kind of noir, cop show, slash Blade Runner kind of thing, right? So I'll say, hey, we need a car. It's going to be like for her, like and so it's flying around, but it still needs to feel like a car. I just want your visceral takeaway from it to be it's a car, it's a muscle car from the 70s, right? So you know, maybe from the script, they'll have already created a bunch of designs. Some of them look more futuristic, some of them look more like spaceships, some of them looks like literally like a flying car, right? And then we're gonna look at those together. And I said, no, so get rid of all the starships because we're trying to do like a cop muscle car of the 70s, but translate it into this. This is too literal. This is too far away. This is the space that we need to be in, right? Because this feels just enough like a muscle car. That's what I'm feeling when I'm seeing it. I feel like I'm in the Road Warriors, which is the vibe I want. Yet I believe that it can fly, doesn't feel goofy, right? So So this is the direction. So then we're gonna break into, all right, well, what do you want the controls to look like? Like there's like your control panel that, when she's talking to, there's a hologram of a Nova Prime. There's like graphics on the thing. And then we're gonna go like, okay, how do we want those graphics to be? Do we want those graphics to feel like, yes, it's digital stuff, but is it digital stuff that feels like it's from like the 70s or 80s, like something from Alien, for instance? And yes, that's what we want. We don't want something that feels like it's super futuristic, a la Minority Report, for instance, right? So it's just like all those everything you see on screen has a million decisions behind them, and behind every decision, you have a department that just designs all that stuff. So where you part ways with live action is that in live action, then once they've designed it, it's going to go straight to if it needs to be a practical, element, that people are actually going to be sitting in, is going to go to builders who are going to build that at scale in the real world. Whereas, for us, the animation is going to go to a team of modelers who are just going to build that as a CG model that now can be shot and used in the episode, right? So all that stuff is exactly the same. It's just that you don't build it practically at the end. That's the only difference. Then after that, the whole writing process is the same. The whole storyboarding process is the same. What we do is we create story reels, which is basically we time all the boards, and we do uh, um, the what am I saying? Yeah, we're doing the vocal performances, not yet with the final actors, but already with some good actors, and so we call that the scratch dialogue. So we put the episode together as an animatic, and that's the most important thing, because every intention is in there, like the big acting intentions are in there, because the storyboards are pretty detailed, not necessarily in the cleanliness of the drawings, but in the play by play of the intentions. And we already have worked through and tried different approaches on the acting. So you're working with actors, the same way that you would in live action, except that they're in the booth, you're in the booth, so it's not, there's no physical blocking, all that stuff's been done in there. But I'm saying it's the same process. It's just that at the end of the day, it's executed, instead of being executed physically by people and objects, it's executed by virtually by animators, and the animators are actors too. At the end of the day, the when you look at a performance in an animated film or series, it's an acting performance that is delivered, except instead of just being done by the actor, it's a combination of the vocal talent of the actor and the visual performance of an animator. Um, and being an animator it's a very challenging job, because you know you need to have the acting skills to create a credible performance, but at the
Right.
same time you also need to have the technical skills to from scratch
Right.
create, does your character look, is the pose
Right.
looking awkward, or does
Right.
it look natural, right? So just even existing,
I mean,
you
that
not,
reminds me
yeah.
of talking with Elsa Chartier about, because she
Oh yeah,
has her characters act at a level that so few other artists do, the
that's right.
body language, the facial expressions, whatnot. And she talked about how her acting background contributed to that, the things that she did to learn how to.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Um,
It shows in the work.
it does. It does. And all of this is making, I like every medium that's a team medium in my life, I've gone through like phases of like who I pay attention to,
Hmm.
right? Um, when you're young, it's the actor in the movie. Oh, I love Harrison Ford. I'm going to see all Harrison Ford movies. And then you start realizing that that's not as reliable as directors. And eventually I realized, at least for me, even directors aren't as reliable as writers when it comes to live action films. You
Right.
know, I can pick out the live action films I like best based on the writer. Now, if I get a writer, director, actor combo where I like them all, then it's like, oh, money in the bank. Um,
Like who are your favorite can do no wrong writers for you in movies?
uh, I mean, I'm a sucker for Aaron Sorkin.
Oh yeah,
Always
yeah,
have been.
right.
Um, I like the Goldman brothers, both of them. Even though what's William everybody knows, though everybody forgets that William Goldman did both Princess Bride and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and if that doesn't like show a ridiculous
Range.
ability to do lots of different writing right
Yeah,
there.
sure.
Um, what's his? I'm trying to remember his brother's name right now, and I did the dumb thing and looked up William Goldman rather than looking up um, Lion in Winter. Is the most famous movie his brother wrote. Of course, the computer's going to move slow right now. Only moves slow when you want it to move fast. Um, James Goldman,
Right.
but James Goldman also wrote, in my opinion, incredibly underrated movie called Robin and Marion.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
right.
Great movie.
Um, I want to say is it Stephen Moy? I think only has two movies. Um, but they're two of my favorites, and I'm like, you need to write more. Or no, I'm sorry, Alan Moyle. At least last I checked, the only two movies he had credits on
Right.
for writing. Well, he's up to 12 for. Okay, he's got a few more, but no, see, mostly really small stuff. But he did write Pump Up the Volume, and I guess maybe he only directed Empire Records. You know, so it's like you see these guys, it's like, and it's like it's really annoying when it's the people that like I adore their work and I'm in a minority and they don't, or at least not a big money making minority, and God knows what he's doing now because he doesn't seem to be at the front of movie making.
Yeah, yeah. It's also it would be really interesting to see is also the stuff that they rewrote uncredited
Yeah,
because
no, that's always the question. This, I mean, when Carrie Fisher died and we started hearing all of the films that she was a script doctor on, I'm like, oh my God.
yes, yes.
Um, for a while, I was pretty good at picking out movies that Quentin Tarantino was a script doctor on.
Yeah.
Um, but I haven't been a serious movie guy in like 20 years because I drifted from that. But like in the time
There's
that the
comics
comics
guy.
podcast has happened,
Yeah.
you know, I've become more appreciative of artists and colorists and even letterers. Like
Mm.
one day, Hassan Atsman El How will be the first letterer that like manages to letter a comic that you look at everything else and go, eh, but the lettering's so awesome that it's a classic.
I mean, to me, lettering is so important. It's like lettering is to a comic what sound is to a movie at the end of the day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that's if I'm comparing to movies, and I think it's why we tend to be attracted to actors when we're youngest because that's who we see, and like it's not the order in which they're important to making the thing good. It's the order in which they have the power to make it terrible.
I
Does
think
that make sense?
yeah, it does,
Really
but
bad
I,
acting can
I give
take
more
a
I give
movie that should be good
yeah.
and kill it.
Well, I give more credit to that I see more than that in acting. Just by the fact that I am myself a terrible actor. So,
Right.
so no, to me, um,
Which is why you don't act in
to me,
movies.
every piece. Say what?
Which is why you don't act in movies.
That's right. Well, trust me, I've had misadventures. But no, but to me, that's the beauty of the process.
Yeah.
Is every piece is additive, you know.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to, and it's the same with comics, and it's the same. Like, what's really funny when you, like, for instance, like, let's say in the process of making an episode of What If or anything, right?
Right.
You write it, and then you feel like that's it, that's exactly it, that's perfect, everything's perfect, because you, of course, you shoot for to make it as good as you can. You go, all right, that's
Right.
it. And then you start boarding it, and then you're like, whoa, it's like doors open, and you realize
Right.
different things need to happen, or things need to happen differently, and da da da. And then design comes in, and through your work with them and the magic of what they do, new ideas present themselves, or ways to present certain ideas that you've never, in ways you've never seen before, present themselves. And and every time, like a new dimension, and all the way, obviously, to acting, when the actors take hold of the, I mean, like with What If, we had the good fortune of working with the actors from the movies. Most of them are doing their role. So, certain people, they walk into the booth, and as soon as they're, you go like, oh wow, I know why you're a movie star, and not just, not, and maybe
Right.
somebody else is it, because they're so, I can't tell you exactly with words what it is, but when you perform, I
Yeah.
believe you, and you're taking me, one of my story artist, amazing story artist on I saw at the rap party, and he told me something that was really touching. He said, um, I love you. He said, you told, that's him telling me that I gave him the best compliment he ever had. I was like, okay, what did I say? And he said, you told me, you said, so that's me saying at the time, I told him, hey man, he showed me a sequence, and I said, you gave me something I did not even know I needed, you know?
Yeah.
And so, meaning he not only did what was in the script, what I had written, but he had brought like an extra
Brought
air,
something extra.
quality. And it's the same with the actors. Once those actors just grab onto the words and the and the just perform it, they are giving you something you did not even know you needed until 5 minutes
Right.
ago. You know,
Right.
what's fun is that goes all the way to the very, very end of the process. Whether, like, could be a joke, you know certain jokes only work by the time you hit sound, or by the time you even sometimes hit DI, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's
Right.
very scary, because everybody's telling you that joke's not funny, that joke's not funny, and you're gonna wait until sound, and and when you get to
Right.
the, and then you get a kick, kick, and now all of a sudden the joke's funny, and so every part of the process opens new doors that you did not know existed until you got there.
That actually, and I don't know if there will be a good answer for this because well, I know you did some work on the movie. It wasn't a lot. One of my things that I loved about the special edition DVD of Into the Spider-Verse that came out was it had a lot of deleted scenes that you don't see often in um, animated films because they're often really rough, and some of them were really rough. They made the decision to go and add at least sound to most of them, though I think there were a couple that they just put like subtitles at the bottom saying what it would have. But like a couple of them, I went, this would have changed the movie and in such a positive way. And I love the movie so much. So, like, I'm curious as to why they decided to cut this and how.
I don't know. In this particular, as you said, I worked on it just
Right.
at the
No,
beginning.
and my question for you wasn't supposed to be for that movie. My
Right.
question for you is like, budget is a thing, time is a thing. So how hard is it to make decisions when you're seeing something that's not done yet, but doesn't feel like it's working right now, to abandon it there rather than seeing it all the way through?
Um, there's two different ways in which something's not working. There's something's not working because there's something wrong with it. And in that case, if that's a piece you do need, you're gonna have to work on it until it does. And there's also things that are not working only because there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not the right thing for the story. The story maybe has moved a certain way where this part that you loved 6 months ago now has become redundant or has become going in the maybe we're going in a different you know so the how they say in music, the it's very hard, for you can't let the guitar player mix the album, and so it's this, like, you have to, when you're in this process, you have to be a guitar player that's able to mix the album, if the analogy can,
Yeah.
so you can be precious, you can't you can't, and that's, I think, like the part of being a professional at anything, I think in any discipline, is like putting in your 10,000 hours or whatever it is. But
Right, right,
the point is getting past the preciousness,
right.
where, because a lot of the preciousness comes from fear that, oh, somehow this turned out okay. I don't want to let it go because if I do, who knows if I can do it again, right? So you need to get past that to where you know what you're doing enough that you trust that you can do it again, and you can do it again and slightly differently, and you can do it again the 10 million different ways, then it can be different and they're all going to be fine, and you'll pick the one that is right for the story.
Um, I love that answer, but I'm going to drill down a little bit more. I want to use the specific example that you just used of the joke that
Oh yeah.
you have the people around you saying this isn't funny, and you're going, well, you got to wait for sound, and they're still saying. I mean, is there ever a point where, I mean, because it is a team thing. You're not working alone. Is there ever a point where it's like really hard to go, I am certain that once we get it done, you'll think I'm right, when everybody is going, I'm not seeing it yet. I'm not seeing it yet. I'm not seeing it yet. I mean, or is there the reverse? Are there times where you're not seeing something and you've got somebody working under you going, Stephan, it'll be there. It's coming. When you see it, you're going to be blown. How does the
Yeah.
back and forth work in terms of
I
deciding
think
how to?
it's just, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it goes back to the first thing I was saying, that directing is about trust. It's about you trusting the people, and trusting the fact that they're there for a reason, and that they in certain cases will see things that you don't see yet, and you need to give them the space and the trust to do them, so you can go, oh, I see what you're saying. That, yes, that's awesome. And also the trust for them, that, so, like, for instance, like, it's happened to me in the past that I worked with directors, that you do exactly what they say, and then when they see it, they go like, it's not working because obviously it was the wrong choice, but you did exactly what they said, and they go like, why did you do that? And so you can't work like this, is you can't this is never going to work if you're that type of a team leader. You're never going to get the best out of people because everybody's going to be in this mode of trying to cover their asses, so you
Right.
have to be completely fine with saying stuff like, hey man, you did exactly what I asked and you executed it perfectly, but now that I'm seeing it, I've come to think that it was the wrong choice in the first place. Sorry about making you do the work. It looks
Right.
awesome. It's just not the right thing, and that's on me. And no one in your team will ever have a problem with you saying that. They will appreciate it, you know? Or um, no, shit, as I was saying this, I was like, there's also another side to that. But um, so but the point is, or yes, or you have to be able to say, hey guys, I was thinking this, or even like within a conversation, like the turn of phrase that I hear, like in the like on what if we had a great writing room, and the thing that we all of us very often said, like we would argue something passionately, we would like make the case for this, and then 5 minutes later, I'd be, or somebody else would be, hey, I know I made the case for this, but now off of something you said, I'm going to make a different case that's completely different. And and it's going off of what other it's
Okay.
yeah,
My autistic snarkiness needs to jump in right now. It has to come out. It's almost like you're saying that clear and honest communication with empathy and the willingness to change one's mind based on new information is good.
it's the only way. It's more than good. That's
If only
otherwise it's impossible.
if
The task is
if
too
only
hard.
more people knew that.
Yeah, I know. You think it's basic human existence,
I wish it was basic human existence. I mean, I feel like it's basic human existence too, but like when I hear things like, again, it's the autistic brain. I'm thinking like, how many people do we lionize for being bullies? How many people do we lionize for
Yeah.
never changing their mind about things? And it's like, it's
All the
almost like those are bad traits rather. And, I mean, obviously you can go to politics, but how many directors are great directors because they stuck to their vision, even if that meant treating their actors like shit?
Yeah, you can't, I mean, like, yes. I mean, well, and honestly, like, even let's assume for the sake of conversations that you're that person that works for you, Is this the life is this how you want to live your
Right.
life?
I
Is,
agree.
is this how the vibe that you want to get from your day? You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. Last question on.
I will say, sorry, I will just say
Go ahead.
something.
Sorry.
I will say, I mean, I've been in this business 35 years this year. And the experiences that I've had that were negative or like I can't count on the one hand. It's over,
That's
and I don't want
fantastic
to
to hear.
sound like, oh, everybody's nice, everybody. Of
I
course, we
mean,
all have our egos and we have our moments.
right,
And me, by the way, I'm not always perfect, but I'm just
right.
saying, when I'm not, I know that I should
That's
be.
fantastic to hear, and I pray that it's more indicative of the industry rather than your good luck. I'm going to assume that it is because that will make me happier.
The other thing no, well, I mean, it's true. It's a community.
Right,
And the thing I'll say too is, I think in my life, I've had really like the good fortune of there are certain people, whether it was in music or there was in animation or comics, people who were my idols that I learned my trade trying to copy their music or trying to learn to play from what
right.
they were playing or learn to draw from what they were drawing or da, 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 da. And I've become friends and got to work with a huge number of those people.
That's
And
always a cool feeling.
like the whole thing, never meet your idols, that
Right.
was never the
So
case.
far, so far, it
Not
hasn't been bad for
once.
you.
Yeah,
Right.
not once. To
Um,
me, it was like they were all at the
Well, and as you're describing animation, I wonder if, I mean, because I actually have a theory on why there aren't that many jerks in comics. I mean, obviously there are some, and they become really well known, etc.
Right.
But by and large, the people in comics are really gracious to each other. They're really
Yeah.
helpful to each other. They're really kind to their fans, whatnot. And my theory has always been twofold. First, with rare exceptions, it's a very collaborative medium.
Mhm.
And if you're the jerk, people won't want to work with you again.
Yeah.
Almost no amount of talent will make it worth working for you again because of or thing B, which is there's not enough money in comics to have it be your chosen career if you're not passionate about
That's 100%.
it. And then the final thing is to make money in comics often requires hand selling your own comics and being nice to comic shop owners or comic fans or whatever. So if you don't have the personality that is at the very least good at publicly being a good guy, you're never going to make it in comics. And it sounds like that's the animation world too, is like
I
you
think
have
that's
to,
the
the
world.
very least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes. Again, I mean, like we live in very dark times, let's face it, so it feels weird for me to say that "Hey, everybody's nice and stuff like that." I'm just saying
No,
my
I
experience
love it.
is the people, and you're absolutely right. Like when my kids were teenagers, and they were starting to get like their first like summer jobs and stuff like that, they always ask you, so what should I know? What should I know? And my advice was always one thing, just from my own professional adventures. I said, listen, there's two kinds of people in any job situation. Doesn't matter what the job is. There's the people who make your day easier, and there's people who make your day harder.
Be one of the
Guess
people that
which
makes
ones
days
are going to
easier.
be kept around.
Right. Right.
I think in life in general that that's what it is. And
Yeah.
of course, as you said, when you choose a life that isn't like an artistic project, it's very hard because art is always personal. You put a lot of but as people, everybody does in every job, you know what I mean? But it's true that there's a very personal, very sometimes it's hard to separate you become your value as a human being becomes your art in your eyes
Right.
or the eyes of some, and and so and when that becomes linked with like real world, hey, I have to make money, I have to make sure my phone keeps ringing, and then then it can create a lot of tension, a lot of pressure,
Right.
And
Right.
for me, like I would say the biggest pressure was just artistic, just like
Right.
learning to be good enough to, that's I feel like the main struggle was over myself,
Right.
to
Well,
become
that
better artistically, more skilled, more on the human level, better at working with people, better at working with teams, That to me, there's enough there to work on without me getting into
right.
conflict on the
That
outside.
that segues really well into my last animation question. It isn't even really entirely an animation question because it's inspired by things I've had in conversations with artistic friends off the air, but I think this is the first opportunity I've had to really examine it on the air. Um, I have an actor friend who was in a play that was very well reviewed. He was very well reviewed in it. The director was very happy with what came out, and he never was because he never quite shared the director's view. And I've had a writer friend who wrote a fantastic comic, and like the publisher was happy with the final product. The um general critics seem to be happy with the final product. It was a smaller comic, so it's hard to judge by sales numbers because it was never going to be huge sales numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but he wasn't particularly happy with the art that had been turned in. And he has the utmost respect for the artist. He just felt like they'd wound up going in different directions.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm always interested in these collaborative things. And I'm assuming that you've experienced this at least once in 35 years on one side or the other, where like everybody's doing good work. And that doesn't mean everybody's as happy with the final project as others. How do you reconcile a job well done with I'm not as personally proud of the art that was put out on a whole. I mean, because you were just talking about like your challenge is am I proud of the art? And that is a challenge, but like paying the rent's a good thing too and whatnot. So those times where the rent is paid and everybody else thinks the art is great, but you're sitting there going, like how from a mental health standpoint, if nothing else, I mean, how
Oh,
does
that's very interesting. I think for me, well, first there's two types of projects. There's projects um, that I'm taking on as like, all right, this is me. I will live and die with this project. I will die on the hill of this project because either it's my comic book or because it's based on my comic book or maybe because it's something I'm directing or producing or yeah, I'm just,
right?
hey, I'm the person of records for this, you know? And
Okay,
so for this type of stuff, it's not enough that it's well done. It also needs to artistically exist in the space that I feel is a success. That so that there's no doubt
okay,
about it. But there's also a lot of other projects where I'm like, hey, I'm here to serve. You know what
okay,
I mean? So, for instance, let's say let's say I'm doing storyboards for somebody else's movie, you know,
right,
and I'm
right,
like, here it's like you're an actor. You know what I mean? It's like I'm here to bring a performance to your vision, and the moment that I sign on, I will do everything that I can and put all my intuitions, all my that in the service of your vision, you know? And is your vision the vision I would have had if it was me who's in charge? Maybe I would have
I
gone in a
mean,
different direction, but it doesn't
I
matter.
wish that we knew all actors were like that. We hear enough about fighting on set between actors and directors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but see, like, so this is to me, you're talking about mental health and stuff like that.
Right.
That's also why it's very important for me to balance things out. This is
Okay.
why I need, projects where I'm just helping somebody so that I don't live and die by the success of that project. At the same time, I
Right.
need stuff that is mine so that I feel like I'm doing the stuff that I need to do.
That makes a
This
lot of sense.
there's projects that I like to work with a big team, like in animation. And it's to me, it's as much about guiding the team as it is about learning from the team because everybody
Right.
in there is there for a reason, you know.
Right.
And I also love being alone, doing a graphic novel alone that completely is unadulterated. What's coming out of there, you know. So to me, this is the way. Um, you have to balance to me the key to mental health is understanding every situation you're in and not projecting onto it things that are not on the table. You know what I mean? Like if you go help on somebody else's movie but you feel like, hey, it's my movie too, and then sure enough this is
I
not gonna.
almost wonder if that's, I mean, just like autistic brain thinking all over the place. I wonder if that's why Carrie Fisher was a script doctor rather than writing screenplays.
Well, I see. Okay, so here's the.
If that allowed her to have the further distance, because she seemed to not like, she seemed to really want to be able to control her spotlight. She grew up
I
in it,
don't know.
you know.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
mean, that's just that I didn't say you knew the answer.
no,
That's a
no,
like
no.
my
But
brain.
I'll give you an element to the answer. And again, I don't know her. I've never
Yeah,
met her.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
her in general, but in general, there is a thing that the Hollywood ecosystem does to writers, which goes like this. There's like a cycle to a lot of writers' careers in Hollywood, right? Like the cycle starts with, you're writing your spec script on your own, and you write this great script, and then people read it, people love it. Maybe you get an agent, then maybe it gets sold to a studio. And at that point, either it gets made or it does not get made, but people go like, wow, this is good though. I'm going to give you an assignment. And I mean,
Right.
and I'm talking like this is the old ways because I think everything's different now. I don't know how it is, but like from the years that have been around, this is how typically it would go. And the thing is that the better the writer, the more money they can command. And then the studio goes, yeah, so since we're paying a lot of money for this person, instead of having them write something that's deep in development, let's have them put out the big fires. Let's put them on the stuff that is just about to go in production. Because, like, of course, you want the best people on the stuff that's getting
Right.
shot tomorrow. So little by little, writers get to go from the blank page of writing a spec to having an assignment. Oh, it's still a blank page, but it's based on already like the what toys you're supposed to play with. To
Right.
like now I'm in the writing room, like rewriting two scenes so the movie can shoot tomorrow. Or I'm in the writing, I'm in a round table, kind of just for 3 hours. You're cranking up like 50 gags, you know what I mean? So
Right.
that comes alive tomorrow on set. And so they get caught up in the immediacy of those situations that are super urgent because they're about to shoot the thing, but at the same time that become very, 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 very reductive from a creative standpoint and very far away from the blank page of writing a spec script, right?
Right.
And so that creates so and I mean and so that's why I was saying, like you're saying, like there's those amazing writers that I know, but they've only done two movies. Yeah, but maybe they rewrote
They're,
50 of
maybe
them
they're doing all
and
sort.
got paid a
Maybe it
shit
turns
ton.
out every good music movie out there has had Alan Moyle working behind the scenes.
There you go, there you go. And once you're getting like $1 million to show up for 3 weeks to it's hard to go back and writing something from scratch for no money. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
so it's I think as a there on the one hand, you want the big assignments, but they're great and they're great opportunities. But the big assignments also take something from you, which is a sense of autonomy of, hey, how well do I do when there's no assignment, when it's all
Right.
from, you know? And so I think that's what I've been trying to protect in my career is to a sense of um yeah, I'm part of the magic, there, but I'm saying part of the magic because um back in the 90s when it was like the height of vanity plates on cars, right? Not only people had vanity plates, but then they realized they could sell more plastic by selling people vanity plate
Plate holder.
holders, right?
Right.
And so, like a lot of people who worked at Disney had this vanity plate holder that said "part of the magic." And I'm like, yeah,
that
yeah, it's
that
great.
also feels like the type of thing that Disney would hand
I know.
out.
And I'm like, yeah, it's great. You're part of the magic. But the
Here's your
question,
bonus. Here's your Christmas bonus. A vanity plate holder.
yeah, there you go. 25 years with the company. Yeah. No, but my
Happy
point.
birthday. Have a vanity plate holder.
Right, right. And so the thing that I think is important to protect is that yes, it's great to be part of the magic, but then for whatever reason, let's say you're no longer part of the magic and you're at home now. Can you make
Right.
some magic happen still, or have you lost that in the process, right? So
Right.
that's I think the thing that artists need to, especially in these days where you can't count on like, hey, I'm working for the same studio for 30 years. Those days are over. So you have to
No, it's
protect.
all work for hire. It's all work for
So
hire.
and even if it was already work for hire, but it was
Right.
long term. work for
Right.
hire. Now it's just like, well, finish your
No,
last
no.
drawing, we go.
Yeah, they discovered that they like it better if you're a freelancer because that means less health insurance and easier to let you go. And when
Yeah,
the
I mean,
corporate entities take over,
yeah, yeah. No, but, like, the world will be what it is. But
right,
at the end of the day, just as an artist, you have to protect your artistic autonomy and be able understand that you're not part of their magic, they're part of your magic,
right,
and they're renting
right.
your magic for a while, and that's awesome. But then once you're also on your own, like do you still have that magic with you and the ability to
Right.
manifest it on your own volition?
So that's a perfect place to pivot to the magic of yours that I know so well.
Mm.
And I want to start with romance in the space age, and I know you lead off with
Space
everybody
God.
asks this question. Romance in the age of the space god. I'm
Space
sorry,
God.
that's right. Romance in
Sure.
the age of the space god, and I know that as of last year, your answer was I don't know. Um, do you know yet if Romance in the Age of the Space God is a self-contained story or whether we might get more?
I do not know yet.
Okay, that's fair.
I will tell you why. I will tell you why. Because uh, the world is moving faster and crazier than this series can even keep up with.
Yeah.
And so
Um,
it's like um, it's it's I have to kind of wait and see what happens.
well, first give the front counter pitch for Romance in the Age of the Space God. A nice long title that I have to look at every time to make certain I say it right.
Well, I think one of the biggest question that people have these days, and especially the younger people, and it's kind of started with millennials, really, but now they're not so young anymore, but like the Gen Z and after, and the question of finding meaning and purpose in a broken world.
Hmm.
And like how do you who are you was good when the world is going crazy and doing things that he can't quite abide, yet you have one life to live and you got to make it count, and so that was the original idea for this. And because as I said, we're like in the business of telling stories in the most universal stories in the weirdest way possible, like as I was saying earlier, or because I'm a big fan of Karl Barks, or because the first movie I ever worked on was And Fievel Goes West. So I was just like, I'll make this like a weird, almost like, yeah, show the image so that people know what I'm talking about, like so it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just like, what is he saying?
It'll be up at our
Oh, okay,
show
okay, okay.
notes.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So
we're
like
audio.
I need the
Yeah.
visual aid on this. But so basically, right, so we're in this world which is has immediacy and stuff like that. It's like our world, like a dystopian version of our world. But at the same time, it's with
I
little
mean,
minds.
is it really dystopian? It feels pretty real.
Well, maybe we're dystopian.
That makes sense. That
And this is what I'm telling you. It's just like the world is going too fast for this to keep
right,
up with. And so it's a world where the unthinkable has happened. Politics has descended into this kind of chaos. And also this weird object that looks like a black giant egg, has
right,
appeared, and it's around the Earth. It was found buried in the one of the moons of Saturn, and now it's around the Earth, and it's got this weird property that you can see it. It seems to be in the same place in the sky from anywhere you see it on Earth. So, which just like blows people mind, and people are starting to think of it as the space god, and no one knows why it's there and why, and it's freaking out. And we're following these young characters who are just trying to navigate that life, and they have their emotions and they have their micro goals, like this girl who's you know, trying to exist in this kind of corporate situation where she's working, and where, you know, it's everything is super treacherous. And this her brother, you know, foster care brother, they grew up together, foster
Right.
care, you know, who's like this guy who's kind of floating around. He goes from uh, um, you know, small job to small job, and he can't keep any of them down, you know. And at the same time, you know, he's got something to him, and we learn that somehow he's in the center of this plot that we don't quite understand, that is related to the big scheme of the space god. And then we have this other young woman who's like clearly works for the resistance and he knows things and stuff like that. And it's them kind of their lives intersecting and it's coming together. And I did it during COVID, when the world felt like it was completely falling apart, and that
Right.
came out very quickly. And I, you know, it became this, and I think it's 44 pages or something like that.
Sounds
It,
about right.
it reads, and I say in the at the beginning, I'm just like, okay, I can't tell you if this is the first issue of a series, or if it's just like a self-contained, open-ended little short story novella kind of thing, you know, and like a time capsule of a little window on this world. And we, you know, and you know, I like Philip K. Dick kind of short stories kind of vibe, right?
Right.
It's gonna be one or the other. And the thing is, there's some level of to my process where I never know what I'm going to do until I sit down at my table. So it could very well be that I'm sitting down tomorrow and I'm starting the the second chapter, or it won't happen for years. I don't know. We'll see. It feels like right now it needs to wait and see. It's kind of like this doing this weird two-step with the world, starting during COVID. There's some Trump references in there. Then Trump
Yep.
was like, well, there's that, and now he's
Right.
back. Whoa, so this is relevant.
Right.
So it's this weird dance with the world that this series is doing, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is my first chance to say that all of Stefan's comics are available at dark-planet-comics.com, including Romance in the Age of the Space God for $12.99, which is $12.99 incredibly well spent, because my opinion is it can be either of those things. It stands well alone. It stands really well alone. It could also be the start of a series. It could be the start of a universe. There are so many things that, I mean, the next chapter doesn't have, I mean, it's already, and this is so rare in a standalone, and you make it work so well, even though it's another one of those hard things to do, non-linear. It's like, we're going to
Right.
jump forward half an hour, back 2 days.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
You know,
awesome.
so as you're reading it, you have to piece together everything that's
Mhm.
going on. Um, Beautiful in all the possible ways. I wonder, I mean, you pointed out the obvious references in that you'd worked on Five O Goes West, and you love Carl Barks, but in terms of using mice to face horror, I wonder if Mouse was in the back of your head somewhere too. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
because there's a tradition of
yeah,
using
yeah.
mice as
Right, yeah, you know, and you know, and Fritz the cat to some degree, you know. Although I'm
right.
not doing the thing because like there's like an aesthetic, um, there's a level
Yeah,
of aesthetic distance that I'm trying to not break with this thing. Like for
right,
instance, you're never gonna see sex or nudity with this, because once you start doing that with those little, you know, furry animals, then it
right.
becomes something else, right? So I'm keeping it in a certain way, like on the Zootopia.
Though I do have one question from an artistic standpoint, and I wonder, like, is this something that you thought about as hard as I thought about it the first time I saw the panel? Um, they're, and I guess not when they're on the spacewalk, so that makes more sense.
Mm,
But when they're in their space suits,
mm.
their ears stick out. and that just that just struck me. I'm like, does that make sense or does that not make sense?
That's awesome. Let me see. You, oh yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. In the inner suits, not the space
No,
suits.
nothing. I just noticed that when they're outside, their ears don't
Right.
stick out,
Oh, I
and
see. I
that
see.
really wouldn't have made sense.
Because I didn't have an explanation for that. But yeah, I think it was cool. I mean, like the big ears and I think
Right.
that's
Well, but it's still, it seems like they wouldn't be as protected when you put the helmet on them. I'm sitting there going, because this is one of those places, and I haven't called her yet, but my cousin worked at NASA for 20 years
yeah,
at
yeah.
Mission Control. So, like, there's a part of me that wants to call her up and say, so let's assume that we were sending life-size mice into space.
Anthropomorphic
Right.
to be there. Yeah.
Would it make sense to have the ears outside of the inner skull cap?
I think it would probably not make sense, but
But it looks
you
cool.
know, it looks
It
cool.
looks
Gotta
cool.
go.
I
You
mean,
gotta
it's
go with
like sometimes I can't think of a comic off the top of my head that I know has done this, but I know it's been done in ways that don't bother me. Like, they're in a helmet in space, but then they
it.
drop it at some point because you need to see their faces for the story to be told properly.
Yeah, that or
And
that yeah, the studios said, hey, we're paying to see we're paying for
right.
her. We're gonna want to see.
Well, but like even in independent comics, where it's not anybody saying that it has to be done, it's like,
Oh yeah,
okay, this thing, and oftentimes there will even be something so that your mind knows that in reality they're in a helmet,
yes. There's truth,
but
there's
that's
story.
not what we're showing you because that doesn't tell the story as well.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's truth and there's truth in story, and those are two different
Right,
things.
right. But yeah, no, I love this book so much. I'm certain I will read more if you decide or read it many more times. If you decide to do more, I will be first on board to read it. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, it was special. It also uh throws up because as I was thinking or as I was listening to you talk about animation and how it works, as I'd been thinking about it before the podcast, um, your four different comics works, um, Silver, Rosalind, which is tied to Silver,
Mhm.
Palomino, and now Romance in the Age of the Space God, um, have some striking differences in style.
Mhm.
Um, Silver is black and white and doesn't. I'm not going to say that it doesn't do any of the background scenery, but it's sparing in set design.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Um, and then with Rosalind, it's even more so, but I think on purpose because it's supposed to be the the diary
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Um, so it's pretty much single page, very rough, very shadowed, and it works perfectly. Um, and then Palomino, in some ways, it's the one where you show your animation experience the most because it has detailed set design, right down to like things like the Snoopy poster in the kitchen, and things that are not just there but are always there. Um, and a much more fleshed out three-dimensional world that even though it shows your animation bona fides, your your panel layouts, your um sound design, for lack of a better term, your sound effects, that sort of thing, um, show a deep knowledge of the language of comics as well. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, it brings all of the best things from great animation and great comics into one thing. And then Romance in the Era of the Space Gods has elements of that, but also trying to find the right term to say it because it feels very deliberate. So to say that it was stripped down or lazy or anything like that doesn't feel like anywhere near the right word. Blurred. The lines are blurred rather than making specific references. Rather than, I mean, yes, we know it's New York, but rather than like seeing things tight enough to absolutely date it in a given era. I mean, it's like the background is deliberately not as fleshed out because that gives a more universal air to the story. Also, did you like you have much thicker inks on this? Were you working in marker to begin with, or did you do really light pencil? I mean,
Um,
I feel like your three books were possibly created in almost completely different manners
right.
rather than going, I do this and then this and then this. It's like, okay, for this book I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to do this book this way. um so okay, talk to me about that. I think there's a question hiding in there, but I don't know
No,
what it is, but you're
I think
nodding your
there's a
head enough that
question.
I think you know what to say.
I know it's a great question. So like I think at the end of the day, it boils down to this, or at least it starts from this, which is that I think storytelling in general has two levels. The first level is clarity. So if you're not able to, excuse me, to achieve clarity in your storytelling, people don't understand what you're putting down, then there's no point. There's nothing,
Right.
right? So first one is clarity, and clarity is not easy to do, like when I do conventions, and people come maybe to, people who have not read comics before, or, and they always say, "Oh, I love to read comics, but um, they confuse me, because I don't know if I should go this way or this way, or I don't know, is it
There
this
is a special
guy
literacy to
now?
comics.
Is it the
Hmm.
same guy? Is it a different guy? Is it
Hmm.
I'm confused, right? Uh, um, so I think clarity is, and also because I'm used to movies where, you have a very fine brush in terms of the units of time that you have to work with, like one frame is, but
Right.
also a very fine brush in terms of the continuity of things and stuff like that, that you can have very, very specific intentions. And so I started to look for the same very specific intentions in comics. Like for instance, I would have a script where, I'd say she looks over and he knows that she knows, or she knows that he knows, and you have to draw that, and and capturing the energy of that moment clearly, of such an abstract kind of passing intention, it requires a lot of work on clarity, right? So clarity is one thing. It's a lot of things. It's a lot. But clarity means nothing if, so in other words, it's not enough that you're clear in what you're saying. You also need to be able to make people feel a certain way about it. You need to be able to create sensations and emotions, like a visceral human response to the storytelling. So that this is why you cry in movies. This is why you don't go, "Oh, I see. Yeah, this happened. Okay, I get it." No, you cry, right? Because not only you understood what's going on, but also you feel a certain way about it. Okay,
No, I
so
will say there are more comic books that make me cry than movies that make me cry.
or comic books. So, so like the thing that I'm trying to do when I'm approaching a comic is to have everything in the service not only of clarity, but also of creating that experience that on every level, even on the meta level of the style, the colors, or not, or the that already right there that puts you in the right space emotionally and referentially. So for instance, Silver, which is a big kind of pulp adventure in the 1930s. Uh, it's uh, um, it's very pulp. It's tips its hat to the big adventure strips, of the 1930s, or big black and white movies of but at the
Hmm.
same time, it's done in a radical way that feels modern, not like a spoof of those things, right? So, um, so, and there's the vampire thing and stuff. So when you're thinking of like Nosferatu and the Murnau one, obviously the very expressionistic, and you know, so the style for this book is I was thinking of it as the most epic black box theater you've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Something where, again, at some point we have like a giant chase action scene that takes place, that goes on for like 50 pages, right? In the middle of, I can't remember in which book it is, but where, there's a horse chase, there's a big, battle, big fight and cat and mouse game in a big mill by a river. The
Right.
thing collapses. So there's a lot of epic thing. There's epic things at the end of the movies. There's armies. There's sort of, so it's not a small story, but it's done in this expressionistic black box theater. Only the stuff you need comes out of the shadows kind of vibe,
Okay. I
and
mean, it's almost in a
live
cinematic sense, it's almost like Hateful Eight.
That's right. Exactly. And also there's this idea of using the zippertones and
Yeah.
black, white, and zippertones with just some. I'm cheating with some white glows for silver just to pull it out. But um, that in a way harkens back, gives it like this pop art, or even more so, kind of, like a newspaper, kind of newsprint kind of vibe to it. So there's a lo-fi quality, but in a very sophisticated way that feels radical and exciting, and yet puts you back the minute you open the book, you're in that world. Before you know anything about the characters, before you know anything about what's happening in the story, you open the book and you're already in this world of movies, adventure strips, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the thing with this, and so for Rosalind, it's the same, right? Where it's first it's an offshoot of Silver, so it has to be in the somewhat same family of visual presentation, but that as you said, it's a memoir, it's recollections, from a child, from traumatic events that a child, wrote down in her journal. So there's a naivete to it. There's but memories, you just remember this one detail that really stuck, but then what else, who else was present, I don't remember, you know what I mean? So it's
Right.
got dream state sort of quality of traumatic memories, and also, but again, read now, but written and baked in the voice and point of view of a child. So there's an innocence to the art also, and to the language that so again, you open this thing, and before you know anything about the specifics, just the presentation of it just already puts you're in it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Palomino, it's a very grounded story that takes place in LA 1981. So the city is, and life in the city, um, uh, the city is a character in here, right? And so and the thing that, and people will realize this even more as we get deeper into the series, because the next two books will be coming out soon. But at the end of the day, it's a story that is about impermanence and the impermanence of civilizations, and and what is it that stays? What is the lasting element? And it's once everything goes, it's the moral fabric that is passed from one person to the next, and that lives on, that sort of human spirit of justice and truth, right? And then everything else goes, even the things that you take for granted as your world. Everything goes, everything changes, the Palomino closes, everything changes, and
Right.
so landmarks, how many, I've been in LA for 30 years, and some of place I consider landmarks, well, either they burn down or they just go, and then Meltdown Comics, the whole
Right.
block, now there's condos and stuff, so because the sort of like the underlying theme is like this impermanence of the world you take for granted. This world had to exist, that world had to exist in a very, very immediate way, and so that's why all the backgrounds are very detailed, very consistent. I've built all those sets in CG, just so you know, so
Okay.
I'm able to use it from, and so to me, I am a really big believer in the fact that art is discovered, it's not decided. You
Okay.
always decide you're going to do something, and things in the thing, if you're being honest in your process, things will tell you what they want to be as you move forward along the way. And
Okay.
and like for instance, when I start a book, I don't start by like designing characters like, all right, this is my model sheet now. This is the design. I'm gonna draw them exactly like, because that's decided, that's not discovered. So instead, what I do, I have a basic idea of what I want, and I kind of muddle through as I'm doing the layouts. And by the time
Yeah.
I'm doing the layouts, I've sort of landed on a design, but that design emerged out of story. It was not decided artificially ahead of time as a executive decision.
Okay. And then that kind of answered my next question because we recently talked to Matt Madden, whose book Six Treasures of the Spiral is out now and fantastic. And one of the things Matt does is he likes to work with constraints, and sometimes he even sets the constraint. He actually said often he'll set the constraint before he even really starts fleshing out the story. He'll have kind of an idea, decide on the constraint. And so, like, when you were describing how you were making Silver into like the most epic black box theater production ever, I'm like, okay, that I immediately heard Matt Madden in my head. That's a constraint. Like, so where in the process do you think of that artistic constraint that you're putting on yourself, that it's I have to tell this story in this look, and if it doesn't work in this look, then I have to figure out how to make it look at, or is it something that comes very organically for you?
I think it comes very organically, but it comes very quickly.
Okay.
Like by the time I'm on the first page, I get, oh, I see what this needs to be. I see, so it happens very quickly. And it's more a gut
Um,
feeling, and it's never, and that's the thing I want to say, like nothing I do comes from like some sort of intellectual decision. For this book I will do, you know
you
17
figure that stuff out at
panels,
the end.
and every second panel will be a triangle. I never decide. Again,
Okay.
that's again like the discovered, not decided, but the
Right.
discovery sometimes come very quickly.
Okay. Okay. That's I love the different ways that artists work because there are artists that'll make decisions like that and then discover the story that comes out of I mean, because I mean, having talked to Matt, having talked to other writers that don't always manage to start from pure discovery, I know that they do a ton of discovery, but sometimes they need to like constrain themselves to be able to discover, if that makes sense. So it seems like you just sit down and it's like, oh, I have all of these ideas. Let's see where they start going. And the constraints just fall into place based on, okay, now I need to start paring this down into an actual story to tell rather than everything.
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you, when it comes to story, there's two levels also. And I guess it goes to actually is the same. I mean, another way sorry, when I was saying there's two parts to, what we do, whether it's this or movies, but that it's the theater and the circus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the circus comes very easy to me.
Okay.
Like I have a head full of and a hard drive full of big high concept ideas, because every
Okay.
one of these books you're talking about, there's a high concept between all of them, right?
Right.
But and I have those turning in my head for years and years, sometimes decades, but I don't have the theater quite. I don't, in other words, I don't
Okay.
have my way in. I don't have the one real sort of human way in that makes me go like, oh, I know what this is now, right? And so this whole for the all those time, those years that the stuff's starting in my head, it's starting to already starts to accrue a lot of visual ideas. Oh, it could look like this. Oh, this, So, but it's still missing that pilot light of
Yeah.
this really about, right? And so, like for Palomino, for instance, you know, I we were on a trip, and my little youngest of my kids was graduating from school, and so it was like and my oldest was getting married, and so it was like a turning of the page. Oh, like I guess I'm done with the parenting and stuff, and then boom, it hit me because I for a year I had been sort of because there's I mean maybe I told people, maybe I told you before, I don't know, like Palomino has had like a interesting story because it was one of those ideas that I had in the back of my head for years and years and years and years, and I had never had quite find my way into it. And then sorry, Tim Sales
Right.
Tim Sale wanted to do a book together, and he said, "Hey, um, will you write me a story like a noir, neo-noir story? Do you have anything like that?" And I was like, "Yes, I have this thing. It's called Palomino." So I pitched him the high concept, and I was like, "Man, dude, this is awesome. Let's do this." So we started down the road of, "Hey, let's do this thing together," and then it was like, "Okay, well, now I have to write it." And I took me about a year during which I couldn't find what it was. I was writing, and I wrote like three or four different takes, and every time it's just like, it's cool, but that's not right. That's talk about not being
Right.
prescient. That's not the right thing. That's not it. And then, of course, just to finish that chapter, then he passed away, and then
Right.
it was like, you know what? At this point, I know what this is. I'm gonna enjoy it myself. But the point is, the thing was, we were on that trip. Like I said, there was this family sort of page that was being turned, in our family, and I was like, oh my God, he's got a daughter. Like what? And I was like, yeah, he's got a daughter. And everybody like was getting ready to go somewhere, like visit somebody. Just like, you guys go. I'm gonna stay in the hotel room. And I stayed in the hotel room this one morning, and I wrote this one scene. Uh, the one scene ended up not being in the book, but everything was in there. Like who he was in there, who she was in there, what their relationship specifically in ways that I could not even articulate with words, but was in there. And once I had that, then yes.
So
Yeah.
what you're saying is we have something to look forward to when you do the hardcover compendium edition of all 5 volumes and have bonus material, right?
Um, yeah,
Maybe.
good idea. I didn't think of that, yeah, I think a lot of cool bonus because I have a lot of questions about how I write my scripts. And my scripts are written like movie scripts.
Okay.
They just tend to be a little bit more short-handed than you typically would do a script if it was not for my own consumption and use,
Right. Right. So you do script first.
I script first. And so I think at some point I'll just because there seems to be interest in seeing what that process is, I'll share that as a sort of companion or something like that. I think that's pretty
I
cool.
would be all over it. I mean, I love process. I love process. Part of the reason I love process is because there are so many different processes that work. There isn't one right way to make anything cool. Um, and anybody who
Obviously,
tells you otherwise is
right.
selling something.
Otherwise, it's not it has to come from honesty and truth. It just has to come from
Right.
like not pretend trying to hit for like oh they're gonna love this or they're gonna love that or no you just do whatever you not even what you're thinking because it's not about thinking, it's just whatever feels like it's is just being present for it and letting it happen. But what's funny is like at the moment, I mean, I should stay away from non-announcements, but we're working on an adaptation well, for a lot of the different projects, by the way, but specifically for Palomino, and uh, um, no one's been announced officially, so I'm not gonna drop their names
Right.
or put them on the spot, but I brought in a we brought in a great writer of TV shows to work together and just work on the adaptation and stuff like that. And the first scene, and when they was like, "Hey man, I wrote this thing. I hope you don't mind. It's a new scene that's going to like see if you like it to open the show." And what he wrote was the exact same thing that I wrote in that hotel room years ago.
I
And it
love it.
was like, yes, we
I
are in
love it.
sync.
I love it. I love it. And I look forward to hearing more about that as it goes.
Yeah,
So there are 3 volumes of Palomino right now. We gushed over it so much last time. We don't need to get into details, but it's a couple of different murder mysteries and music and growing up in LA and trying to be a single parent of a teenager and also a very broken person because of, well, life and the reason that you're a single parent and all of that stuff. It's messy in all the best possible ways. It's beautiful. I know I went over the moon the last time on like I can feel the music, you know. The songs that I don't know, I can hear them in my head anyway, you know. I haven't even had the heart to go listen to them yet, the two early on where you give us what they are. I haven't been able to go listen to them yet because I'm like, what if they're not as good as what I heard? I don't want to mess with what I heard. I mean, obviously I could go, that was the cover that was being done. So I mean that's the
yeah,
beauty of a cover version is you can
yeah,
take a song, sometimes it's not even a very good song and turn it into a great song. Or take
exactly.
a great song and turn it into a different great song. Um Johnny I thank Rick Rubin regularly for writing Johnny Cash's last
Oh,
chapter.
right. Oh my
And
God.
have you
Heard,
ever heard him talk about that?
I think
I've
I
heard him.
have remember like a specific point that he made. So if you
Yeah.
go for it, if you have a
No. I feel like I don't know all the details, or I don't remember all the details. I feel like I heard him talk about it with Mark Maron and some other podcast that I went and found just because the Mark Maron Rick Rubin conversation was so interesting. Like, I need to hear more Rick Rubin talking. But it was like he'd just show up at Johnny Cash's house every day and give him a new song. Half the time Cash didn't even like listen to the old version. He'd give him like the words and the chords, and they'd just start messing with it. Cash trusted him so implicitly at that point that like they just, and Cash was already slowing down and whatnot. So it was like, show up, do the work that he had the energy to do, say goodbye, but
it's a really transcendental album,
all of them.
Right.
I mean, because they did what? I think there are 6 albums worth of official American recordings.
I did not even realize it was that much.
And then a 4 CD box set of like not quite the outtakes, just the things that they'd recorded that hadn't been put on albums yet. I mean, there's
when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking about Hurt, and I'm thinking of When the Man Comes Around and that kind of stuff.
That was those were both on the 4th American recordings album. When the Man Comes Around was the name of that one. But he'd already covered Soundgarden. He'd already covered Tom Petty.
That's incredible.
He'd covered Depeche Mode, Personal Jesus. And like, I mean, if you're thinking Man Comes Around, like that has one of the examples of a song that I think is a bad song from a great artist that a great artist turned into a good song. Have you ever heard the original Sting version of I Hung My Head?
No.
The Sting version is, to me, it's discordant because I Hung My Head is such a song. I mean, Cash just it fills it with remorse, fills it with introspection.
Yeah.
And Sting's is like '80s. I'm gonna send an SOS to the world,
right.
which again is kind of discordant, but because that's a poppy dance song about sending an SOS, but like it works even less when it's about borrowing your brother's rifle and shooting somebody.
Yeah, I mean, like to me, a song like there the Johnny Cash version, they're so reflective, and that it has to be sung by a man at the end of his life who's looking back on and taking responsibility for his life. This is
No, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay. I haven't listened to it in a while, but I used to spend a lot of spare time scouring the internet for live bootleg recordings, and I have the one live performance that Johnny did between June's death and his death, and it's both amazing and haunting.
Yeah, I will give you a behind the scenes kind of tip, like a secret. I think it's at the end of the second volume of Palomino, when Jarvis shows up, at the Pal to these things,
right?
We'll go Sherry Joe. Originally, he was starting the set, or he was ending the set. Yeah, he would go Sherry Joe, and then he would say, "Now I'm going to do something a little bit different." And he had this song that that I wrote for that was basically a version of Hurt.
Oh, nice.
That was his version of Hurt, and I did it, and then as I was laying it out, and I realized that the story didn't want that. The story didn't need that.
No.
It was not necessary. But so see, talk about that kind of goes to your earlier question. Sometimes
I mean, because the way you do end, and I love the way you end here, because he tells her to pick one, and she immediately goes full on Hendrix.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like Dylan going electric, you know.
yeah, yeah,
It makes you realize how very and you managed to write Sherry in a way, or Sherry Joe in a way that definitely inspired, you know, even before we get to the next book. And these books have been out long enough that I'm not going to be upset if I spoil them a little bit.
yeah,
This is the spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read Palomino, who doesn't want spoilers. Pause your recording, go buy them and read them, because they're amazing. And he's got the end of the story coming out soon. But you can hear Chuck Berry even before you learn later that he stole it from a black singer-songwriter. So like that last page is like, okay, you did what rock and roll was. I'm going to show you what rock and roll is, Dad. You know, with the I mean, I never got to see Jimmy, but there, almost every Pearl Jam concert I've been to, there will be a point where Mike McCready has the guitar up on his shoulder behind his head, and
yeah.
that's never ever anything but ridiculous. I mean, it always blows my mind that like his most ridiculous solo is the one where he can't see what he's doing.
Right, right.
And it's never quite the same.
Yeah,
It's like, how did that become the pose where
yeah,
rock and roll guitarists
yeah,
jam the best?
you know, and it started with the whole, you know, rockabilly thing, which is, well, you know,
Right.
what it's doing, you know,
Yeah.
where you know, you climb on the upright bass and you do the
Right.
thing, and you know,
Hmm.
and you know, those goofy tricks, but that, you know, and you know, and it's really interesting because you can read it in different ways. You can read it as she's like, oh yeah, let's fucking do this, you know, or
Yeah.
just the fact that is she trying to, or does she just like, is this a way for her to accept, to like, all right, I'm putting, once I'm going, you know, beyond, above and beyond, it's in a way she forgave him. She's like, right, it's
Right.
just like, hey, okay, you know, or is
I,
it that, or is it just
Yeah,
that?
no, I can see elements of that, and like you play with that in the next volume. She hasn't really forgiven
Right,
him, but she's
right.
in.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, the way I read it on those final pages is always a mixture of showing off for Dad, fuck you, see if you can keep up.
yeah,
You think you're all that, see if
yeah,
you can keep up. And just like, all right, he's giving me this chance to shine even more than I normally do. I'm
right.
gonna give,
Yeah,
you know,
I'll
because
bite. She bites, you know, I'll
right,
bite. Right.
right, right.
And you know, it's something you said early on that I never heard said, and I really like too, is when you said Palomino is deliciously messy,
Yes.
and
That's
like the
become my
emotion.
new favorite term for most of my favorite works. Life
Yeah,
isn't clean.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I can appreciate something that doesn't have stuff that like where the only parts of the story you see are the story. But how often in life, even if you said, okay, this is the story of the making of Palomino, and you stuck to just telling the story of the making of Palomino, but in reality, your kid might have gotten sick for a while, another kid might have lost their job, your wife might have, I mean, you had other things going on in your life.
yeah,
No story, no plot line doesn't have things that aren't actually related to the plot, except that they are related to the characters.
that's right, that's right, that's right.
And more, I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
the fiction that is messy enough to go, yes, this doesn't matter to the plot, except that it does matter to the character, and the character matters to the plot.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And that's something that I think I noticed it before, but I've become more aware really in the last year of how my favorite fiction has that. So I think the last time it was probably something that I knew and didn't have words for yet. And that's the phrase that I've come up with for my favorite art is messy in the most beautiful way, which is it's
Right.
not all about advancing the plot. It's about
Right.
building real characters who are
Yeah. Yeah.
part of something. Um, and it's why I asked off air the spoiler question because I just needed to know. My psyche couldn't handle having to wait. We won't spoil it for anybody else. We won't even spoil what the question was for anybody else. But it's like
But it'll be
having
answered.
reread it again. I had forgotten that last scene, and I'm pretty certain that my brain had deliberately just blocked it out because otherwise I would have been dwelling on it all year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that will be answered soon. As you said, like those three volumes are already available.
Right.
4 and 5, we're going to do. Those are done. We're finishing colors on 5, but it's almost done. And so we're going to do very soon the Kickstarter for Volume 4 and Volume 5, and the
Okay,
final
doing them
one
together.
together at the same
Okay.
time, like we did 2 and 3 at the same time.
Okay.
And
See, I jumped on board after the three were out.
oh,
It
it
took
was just
Howard to tell me, you got to read this guy, Stephan Franck. And I'm like, never heard of him, but Howard Chaykin's telling me to read him. So I will.
yes, yes. Well, thank you, Howard.
I had to
But
laugh a little because he first told me that there were no good comics being made anymore. And
mhm,
then he made a recommendation of a new comic that I hadn't even heard of. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, Howard, which is it? Are there no good comics being made anymore?
just this one. That's funny. Yeah, but the thing I was gonna say is then there's a final volume which is going to be Volume 6, and that
Oh,
one
so it's going to
is
be six now.
already all well, because here's the thing, right? Like when I got to Volume 3, well, first I thought it was going to be a 4 volume story, and
Okay.
then I get to the
By
end
the
of
time I talked to you, you knew it was five,
and
and,
then it got 6.
and now it's six.
And
So it's really going to be 12, and that's cool with me. I'm
and then
totally happy with that.
well, yes, but this is why when I started, so post 3, I was just like, okay, I need to write all this all the way to the end because all the puzzle pieces have to come together. I cannot just wing this shit. I gotta
Right.
really land it, uh,
Right.
the way that is everything you want it to be. And so that became 4, 5, 6. So I wrote the whole thing, I laid out the whole thing, and now we finished 4 and 5. So we're gonna release those, but 6 is already all laid out and roughed out.
Okay. I can't wait. I can't wait. And and you're welcome back to plug it when it goes live.
Yeah.
For that matter, I can. We have we call it the Pulp Blotter. Chicago playwright Mark Prott and I get together once a month, and we talk about generally a noir comic, but or crime comic, but we call it the Pulp Blotter so that we could do things like adventure comics or sci-fi, and anything that would fall into the old pulp.
Yeah.
And Palomino has actually been one that's been on our radar since before we actually had the show because he's a big fan of Silver. You came up when we were in a different conversation. And I think he's been meaning to read Palomino. So like closer to your Kickstarter starting or during the Kickstarter, I
Yeah.
might twist his arm and make certain that he's read Palomino and then have a new set of questions for you because it'll be somebody else. I mean, I'll be there, but you know what I mean. Yeah, Stefan, it's always fun. I gotta ask my required final question.
Okay.
And since last time you gave me the fantastic Billy Strings, not Springs, Strings music recommendation as well. I'm gonna for
Is
you.
he
I'm gonna
amazing?
he is. I'm gonna require a music recommendation. But
Oh,
the final question is always tell me something you love, preferably a comic, and you can give me multiple recommendations. So I want a music recommendation, but if you got a comic recommendation or movie recommendation, whatever, um, something you love, preferably a comic that not enough other people know, and you need them to, so you have more people to talk to them about it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have to. There's one book that I really, really loved this year. It's the Batman First Night, the Mike Perkins.
Okay.
You know this
See,
one?
is that the
I mean, right
that,
here. I
that
think.
there were two that came out? Okay, yes, that one. We
Oh,
did that one on the Pulp Blotter, Mark and I.
yeah, yeah.
We did an episode on that.
I mean, this is it's masterwork.
Okay.
And you know, I love Mike. Always love Mike, both artistically and as a person. But man, this book is just incredible. And okay, so things that people should know about more in comics. There's so much. I don't want to
I'll take as many
go
as you
out.
want.
Well, okay, so let's go from the. I'm gonna. So here's something that I've I've always loved Darwin Cook,
Okay.
but for
I
some
adore
reason
Darwin.
I had never read his Catwoman
Oh, with
story
Brubaker.
with Burbank for absolutely no other reason that I don't know why it just hadn't happened. And so the other day I was at the comic shop and I see, you know, because they have those mini editions that I really really love, you know,
Yeah,
like
they're nice.
the format is cool. It reminds me like some of the mini comics I had in France when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah, yeah.
And so I saw the, so I grabbed it and it's everything you expect and want it to be. It's
I,
wonderful.
I
So,
go ahead.
no, I was just
I
gonna say,
didn't mean
and
to
just
cut you off.
because I had missed it for some reason before, I can only assume maybe other people missed it too. So if they have
Yeah,
and they
no, I was
uh,
about to say that I think that because Ed Brubaker went on to do all sorts of stuff with Sean Phillips, and
mhm,
because Darwin Cook went on to do New Frontier
right,
and the Parker novels on his own,
right,
this gets overlooked by both Brubaker and Cook fans
right.
because the Cook fans don't always. I mean, it looks like the most recent volume has Darwin Cook's name first, which is good. Um, but a lot of the previous versions have had Brubaker's name first, so I think the Cook fans wind up not seeing it, and a lot
Mhm.
of the Brubaker fans. I mean, I love all of Ed Brubaker's stuff, but he is absolutely better with Sean Phillips than anybody else he works with. There's a reason that they've been a partnership forever.
Yeah, it's an
So
amazing, you know.
so if I see Brubaker's name and don't immediately see Phillips, it's not
Mhm.
as oh, I must grab this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my theory, at least, on why it's slightly less.
Well, for whatever reason, if you like me had somehow
Right.
never
It is. It's so
gotten into
good.
that book, it's a really great one.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and
Yeah.
then there's oof, what else is there? A lot, you know.
Yeah. It's okay. You, you don't have you don't have to come up with more. I
Maybe
get it.
some I
We have
do. I
whole
mean,
episodes where sometimes we
they're
just rattle
fairly
off stuff that we love.
mainstream. They're fairly mainstream. Okay, so I'm gonna, all right. So, because I'm assuming we're speaking to a mostly American audience, uh, um, I'm going to encourage them to explore some European stuff. And for whoever hasn't read at least one Hugo Pratt book, I would say it's, if you like, if people like, and I'm assuming most people that listen to you probably already know this. So, but for whoever, for whatever reason missed it, Hugo Pratt, of course, great author of the 60s, 70s, 80s,
Right.
um, French, Italian, Argentine,
Corto Maltese. He did a
full
lot of
man of the
stuff in
world.
2000 AD.
Right.
Um,
And so, what in American comics, if what you like is people who have this sort of sense of stylization and almost a shorthand with their drawings, like people like Rizzo, like Mignola to some extent, you know, that sort of light touch, Team Cell, where
yeah.
so it's not as anatomically heavy as some of the other stuff, but there's more of a sense of design to it and like a lightness to it. Darwin Cook, I think a lot of that stuff maybe not directly inspired by Pratt, but definitely comes from the same place of inspiration. So if you like that, so there's such an ease to his drawing, or and what's funny is like when I was a kid, I was just telling this to somebody else yesterday. When I was a kid, I didn't really couldn't really read Hugo Pratt just because his stories didn't quite speak to me or whatever. For whatever reason, it was maybe just a little bit too sophisticated for my young taste. But now I'm like, oh, I see what he's doing. And weirdly enough, I feel like, especially with Palomino, the type of brushes that I'm using and stuff like that, ended up in a place that is somehow coming from the same place. And so if you don't know Hugo Pratt, you need to have at least one book by him. It's pretty amazing.
And I will say that he's criminally under translated into English. He's not as easy to find his stuff
Right.
as I would like. The Corto Maltese I know was done, but is out of print. I've heard here and there that it might
Oh, is
come
it?
back into print. I think they finally put out a digital edition of some of it. I don't
Well,
remember what else.
there has to be European editions that are still in print that people can get.
Right.
Probably.
Oh no. Getting the art is easy.
Oh, I see.
But
See.
if you don't read languages
Right.
other than English,
Yeah.
it becomes more. This is where I'll remind people, and I do this sometimes, that like Google Translate has upped its game, and it does have a camera function, so you can just hold your phone over the text as you're reading. I've been known to do that from time to time.
That's
Hugo
crazy.
Pratt is amazing.
Mhm.
Do you have a favorite Hugo Pratt work?
Uh, there's a it's like with artists who have long runs, there's a moment where the style is like the early kind of cruder version of it, then it finds like its thing, and then it becomes at some point you can see they're getting tired with it and it becomes a little too abstract. So like
Right.
just any like the somewhere in the middle of the Hugo Pratt adventures. And they're all kind of self-contained, although some characters, like the ones with Rasputin and whatever, just of the Corto Maltese adventures. I mean, so
Okay.
any of those books in the like one called there's the one called the Celtics, one called I can't remember
Yeah, that's the
what was
19.
based on.
I was about to suggest that because that's like his fifth book in is called The Celts, and
Right.
then A Midwinter's Morning Dream, and those are 71 and 72, and
Yeah.
then
So to me, that's the anything from the 70s, early 80s,
okay.
um, there's yeah you'll see, and it's if people fall in love with it then they can do the thing, but just go to the middle of the run. This is where you'll find, I think, his style at the most mature and not quite over it yet, you know what I mean?
I mean, the art is amazing. Again, I haven't read enough yet. There is an official Corto Maltese website because it looks
And
like
as
there have been
people
a
may
couple
know,
of.
the name, if you don't know the books, Corto Maltese, which is his main character, that's what the island is called, in the Dark Knight Returns, that the nuclear war starts over, right? That's based, of course,
Right,
on this
right.
here.
Um, okay. Give me a music recommendation too, because you gave good recommendations last time.
Um, I can't there's somebody I'm gonna go super obscure.
I like Super Obscure.
Okay. So because of Palomino, we're gonna stay in the world of California honky tonks. And there was like a guy who was a fixture here. It was before my time, sort of. Uh, um, a guy called Chris Gaffney, who was just amazing, amazing singer, just a working musician in clubs and stuff, played all the clubs in LA and toured a lot and stuff like that. He had this cool band. The guy playing steel guitar in it was a guy whose name escapes me right now, but who plays the steel guitar on the SpongeBob SquarePants kind of, like
Right,
uh, theme song. But Chris Gaffney was just this amazing guy who's like a real, he worked as a dock worker or something like that in Long Beach or did stuff like that. But also a musician for years and years in all the clubs around here. He could go from Waylon Jennings to like Blue Eyed Soul, and everything in the middle. And the guy was just fucking awesome. And then somewhere in the early 2000s, I want to say, he had this band called the Hacienda Brothers, and did like two or three albums, and they were pretty successful. I think there was an interview of them on Fresh Air, back in the hey, and so that was a really, really cool band. And it was really a band. Like in the studio, it's the touring band. It's just a group of guys just touring around in a van, right? And like the records is them playing, and those records are just amazing. Uh, um, and
looks like they
yeah, so
recently put out a
and
collection of unreleased stuff.
And just sadly, he passed away just as the band was taking off, and it felt like, he would have like a moment in his career of like greater exposure.
Right.
He got sick and passed away, and so that was the end of that band and the end of it. But just those albums, the Hacienda Brothers album are. Just incredible albums, in my opinion. Um, and so there's that. And also, I will plug also, and you'll see like the one of the thread, and also because Palomino, the steel guitar is a big motif in there. There was in the Hacienda Brothers. There was this guy who I've never met or don't know him, but his name was, I think, Dave Berzonsky or something like that. Was amazing steel player and just plays in that very Bakersfield kind of style. Very bouncy and active and cool. And so anyway, check that out. And then I'm gonna give another one. That's the one I give often because I think is not known by a lot of people outside of the music business. Uh, um, but there was a guy called Peter Cooper. Did I mention him before?
Peter
Um,
Cooper, I
Peter
don't
Cooper.
know.
He was based in Nashville, and he was first and foremost a um, a great journalist. he was one of the top music writers, in Nashville, writing about music, about the industry and stuff like that. But he was also an excellent musician, singer-songwriter. I did get to, and he passed away also a couple of years ago in a just stupid, like a freak accident of some sort. Like I think he fell down the stairs or something like that. Something really um, I don't know, but I got to meet him when he and Eric Brace were doing a couple of dates in LA, and I was playing music at the time, and we opened for them, and we got friendly, and and then played with them the next day, and had like a very very wonderful experience. And so beyond that, he's got those albums where because he's a big fan of the steel guitar, and specifically of Lloyd Green, might be my favorite musician ever in popular music is Lloyd Green. And so there's albums where it's just Peter playing, singing with an acoustic guitar, and Lloyd Green doing all the accompaniment on the pedal steel, and it's
Okay.
transcendental.
That also sounds fantastic. See, this is why I have to ask you these questions. It does look like it is Dave Berzanski. You're
Brzezinski, thank
right. Yes.
you.
I had to look, and there are two Daves. There was also a Dave Gonzalez, but
Yes, oh, I forgot about Diego Gonzalez, who was also in his own right a great kind of West Coast, kind of more rockabilly, Latino. There's a great Latino. I mean, from Richie Valens on to
right.
now, there's a great Latino rockabilly culture here in
Oh,
LA, right?
absolutely.
He's coming from that world, and Dave's coming from the the countryside, and the two are together. There's like a chemistry in that band that's just incredible.
Well, I look forward to throwing it on and listening to some soon. Stefan, it's always such a joy. I need to remember to do this more often just because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it's
fun
my
and or rope you into a book club or two because I've been doing
yeah.
lots of book clubs. um,
Well,
clubs are my
it's my
happy spot.
pleasure. Say what?
I said book clubs are my happy spot because
Really?
it's like
Yeah.
well, because it makes me it makes me get out of the world and
Mm,
into whatever we're reading for the club while still allowing me to be social. And often the world will seep in because it doesn't make me leave the world. It just makes me not obsess on the world because I've got this that has, I mean, at this point, like I don't have time to do anything but read sometimes, and I'm okay with that.
yeah.
Work, read.
Well,
That's a good life.
yeah, there's something really wonderful, I think, about, when you focus on story, you get into a room with people and just focus on story, whether it's a writing room, a book club, a reading, whatever, just
Right.
like, and you hear
Mhm.
everybody's like point of view, and everybody's like what
Oh,
they
it
do.
enhances it so much,
And it's
you
always
know.
surprising because no two people have the same
Nope.
approach to anything or the same takeaway from anything. And that's so amazing.
Yeah. No, one of the book clubs we have on 22 panels is a heavy metal book club. And I think it was issue 5 that um I went, "Oh, well, eventually you got to swing and miss." And Matt and my brother Peter were like, "What are you talking about? This issue was amazing." And by the time we were done talking about it, I liked it as much or more than they did. There were just all sorts of things that somehow, and this is something that I explain to my students on a regular basis, like you are the final collaborator. If you don't like something, one of the questions you have to ask is what mood was I in when I read it?
Yes, yes.
What did I bring to it?
Yeah, yeah. Where was I in
And
my
that's
life?
one of the reasons that we talk about it because maybe and I like I'm the king of getting my two favorite compliments that I get from students and they're very rarely intended as compliments are Mr. E, you're making me think, and Mr. E, I didn't like this, but I think I do now.
That's so amazing.
you know, um, because with, I mean, yeah, great and even bad art. speaks to somebody on a level that doesn't require anything else. But almost no art isn't enhanced when you start sharing and hearing other people's experiences with it.
Exactly.
You know, and I think comics more than any art is the final collaborator is the reader.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so much that has to be left in between panels in comics. There's so much that you can't hear or smell in comics, except that if you're doing it right, you're going to hear or smell. You're going to be able to fill in. But again, that's the job of the reader, and different readers will do it differently. And that's just such a, I mean, I think Nate Powell called it the most democratic medium. And that's a favorite quote of mine. Stephan, it's always a pleasure. Let me take us out. We'll chat for a couple minutes and then I'll let you go because it's probably lunchtime for you. So for 22 panels, this has been Stephan Franck. Palomino Kickstarter is sometime in hopefully the near future. We might bring him for that.
We're thinking April. I would encourage everybody to go to the website and sign on to the newsletter, which is not a spammy thing. It's just like, it's only anytime a book or something happens.
I think I've signed on to the newsletter 2 or 3 times now, and I don't think I've gotten more than one email from him. So I'm certain that it's not a spammy thing.
It's not a spam thing.
And if you haven't read Palomino, go to Dark Planet Comics. Definitely buy it. It's so amazing. Just fantastic work. So for 22 panels, we will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22panelspodcast.